Stud Muffin 1986 here. Welcome back to the channel. I promised you guys I would put out another video on the T28 Defender when I got for information. Now I have all the information I need since it's actually released and out in the game now, so we can completely have full transparency into the stats. We're seeing a bunch of players play it. We're able to get a feel for how it is on the battlefield, how it compares against a lot of tanks right now. This thing is actually quite unique and very interesting to the game, which I personally love. I love uniqueness. I don't like copy paste. I don't really feel like this is a copy paste tank, even though there is the T28 prototype in the game. This tank is a little bit more unique. It's played with very differently. It can be played in very unique styles. It can be up on the front lines, even though it has that tank destroyer role. This thing is actually kind of a cool tank, and with it being the first tier 8 TD with an auto-loading cannon, that actually makes it quite fun. So I'm going to go over just some really fun, interesting aspects about this tank, how it compares against its sister tanks, the IS-3 Defender and the T28 prototype. So let's just dive into it. So first off, when going into this tank, how you want to basically go about playing with this thing is it's got pretty good, decent frontal armor, hull and turret. It's got okay maneuverability. Your accuracy is not very good. You got 0.4 dispersion, so it's gonna be more of a frontline tank. You don't want to go completely solo rogue. You will depend on teammates being with you, as once you're done shooting those 3 shells, you're going to need to protect yourself a little bit, get some cover, wait for those 3 shells to reload, and then pop out and just rain down that damage again. So if you play with this thing correctly, you can really kick butt in this thing. I think this thing is a really, really cool tank. This is not something that you're going to want to, even though it's a TD, you don't want to be sitting back super far. Just like I said, I mean, this isn't a laser accurate cannon. Now, the thing I do really like about this thing compared to the IS-3 Defender is it does have much better penetration, so you're not having to use as much gold rounds with this thing, which is pretty cool. So when comparing this thing, if you were to take the IS-3 Defender versus the T28 Defender, in my personal opinion, I would say that the T28 Defender wins. The reason why I say that is because the DPM, the penetration is a lot better on the T28 Defender. You just have a much better cannon. Its armor, the IS-3 Defender does have better turret armor, but its entire hull is not going to be able to protect it very well if it ends up getting in a good situation against the T28 Defender. So the good penetration, the higher DPM, I mean, this thing's going to be very, very lethal against the IS-3 Defender. So yeah, I would say that the T28 Defender wins. When you actually compare it to the T28 prototype, now this is actually one thing that is quite interesting, because if you look at the T28 prototype, it doesn't have as good of armor, and it's also slower. So with the T28 Defender having better armor, better maneuverability, it also has that 500 alpha cannon. They both have good penetration. You would think that, oh, well, you know, the T28 Defender takes the cake, but not quite so. If you actually look at the DPM between these two tanks, there's a decent difference between the two. The T28 prototype does have better DPM, which is, I think, that balancing between the two. I would say it would be a little hard. I would say the T28 Defender may have a better chance just because it does have that better armor, does have that better maneuverability. If this thing was in a one-on-one match, I would say that the T28 prototype doesn't have quite enough to protect it. The T28 Defender could pop up over hills a little bit. It does have a much better and stronger cannon plate there in the front. So if you use your third-person view and you can see where that prototype is aiming if it's trying to take a shot at your turret, even though you will be taking more hits from a prototype, you have a little bit of more armor you could be working with. I would say it's a little bit of a close call, but the 28 Defender very well could win against 2 equal players. Just being that the T28 Defender once again has that slightly better armor and that better maneuverability. It can have that slightly upper hand. So very cool tank. I actually love the uniqueness from Wargaming. I love that they come out with things like that. I'm definitely against and oppose the copy paste tanks. So yeah, I mean, this is Stud Muffin 1986, and you guys keep tanking.